another thing that I learned in other areas of life that I've tried to put towards that, and that I would try to encourage other people with, is even after you hear the success story, and even if it was a just, you ran into Beyonce in Walmart and now you're the star in her music video or whatever.
Right.
Even if that did happen, there's more to it than that. It doesn't just happen. Even if you're, sitting at a coffee shop and there happens to be a movie director who's like, I want that girl in my next film, comes over and talks to you and hands you his card, and the next day you're pulling into a Hollywood lot. Even if that does happen, there's still a lot of work involved. Even if the director says, oh my gosh, you have to be the lead in my next movie. I know you've never acted before in your life, but you've got to be my next lead. You still have to do some work. It's still not an immediate success. It's still not an overnight success. And it still doesn't just happen. Like you were saying, Gabby, with like online dating thing. It's like, even if you have a profile on a dating site, you have to actually get on and talk to people.
Right. Right. Yeah. And to be honest, like, I mean, I can speak from the dating perspective. I met a lovely man whom I hope I could spend the rest of my life with, but the reality is like, you dream about meeting the person and then you never get past like that point in your mind. And then like you meet them and you realize, wow, like he's amazing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with him. He's a great man. And I love him very much. And so there's no like reservations there, but like cultivating a healthy relationship with anybody takes work, so much work and time and intentionality. And the same is true for our artistic crafts and our dreams. And I think I'm so glad you said that, Grace, because like, even now I'm thinking to myself, like, what dreams do I have right now in my life? And I've even been through this and achieved some success according to what the world would say is successful. Like, am I really being honest with myself about what the dream entails? Because it's so easy to be like, maybe one day I'll win a Grammy, but like, you don't think about like how many hours you got to spend in the studio to like achieve that Grammy or whatever. You know what I mean? Not that that's my dream per se, but like, yeah. So where can a creative start, like in terms of like readjusting their mindset? Like, what should you be thinking? Like, where should you focus, I guess, is my question.
Well, I think you actually said it, intentionality. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, because whatever it is you want to accomplish in life takes work, and probably more work and harder work than you think it's going to, no matter what it is. But I think intentionality is where it begins in your mind, is thinking about it all the time, and every decision that you make. Not that you necessarily, sometimes a dream can be literally all consuming, and sometimes even if you want it to be all consuming, it can't, because you have other responsibilities in your life at that season or whatever. But even so, it still needs to be, every decision that you make, little or big, needs to be intentional. Whether it's moving, whether it's taking a job somewhere, whether it's getting into a relationship, getting married, maybe, having kids, the car you buy, depending on what your dream is and what you want and are working for, intentionality is actually what matters. It's like, you're going out to buy a car. It's like, all right, well, if your big dream involves, I don't know, I'm having trouble coming up with a great example right now, but if it involves,
let me help you with that. Do you mind if I build on your analogy?
No, go ahead.
Go car shopping, I think, is a great analogy. And that your dream is to really do a lot of road trips and to have a lot of people in your car. You probably don't want to buy the biggest truck that guzzles gas because you love road trips. And that's going to be a huge barrier to getting to what you're dreaming of, which is going on road trips. So you probably wouldn't buy the biggest truck. At the same time, you probably wouldn't buy a 2-seater Porsche, because that's not conducive to you having people with you on the road trips. So you're very intentional. You're probably thinking like, let me get this maybe like a minivan that has an eco. I would never want to drive a minivan. I
A
don't care how many kids I
CR-V.
have. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
not a minivan, but like a sedan that holds 4 other people. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
and can
Yeah,
get 30, 40
the
miles.
intentionality, like, like if you want to be a travel blogger. Let's say you want to be a travel photographer and a travel blogger. And it's like the
Right.
people who just they get themselves a camper van and they travel around and live in their camper van and whatnot. It's like, well, they bought a camper van for a reason. Not every travel blogger, however, lives and drives around in a camper van. Some
Right.
of them backpack and walk and stay in Airbnbs, but they made that, neither one is right or wrong. And some of them, get on a plane and then they get off and then they just use public transit in a city. Some of them have the camper van because they go to more remote locations where there isn't public transit available.
That's so
Because
good.
they want to take a picture of a waterfall that takes 2 hours to hike to because there's no roads. And that's the kind of travel blogging they want to do. But if you want to be a travel blogger and you want to document all the greatest coffee shops in downtown Portland or something, maybe a camper van is not the greatest thing. Getting on a plane and going from your home in Whereversville to Portland and then using the public transit would be far more practical.
Right.
So yeah, that's a good example. So your intentionality, it's like, so I have X amount of money that I can budget for this. Should I buy a camper van or a couple of plane tickets? Well, so, you intentionally decide. And so that the intentionality as far as just your mindset, or it's like, oh, I really want to get out of this dumpy apartment I'm living in. I'd really like to have my own house. It's like, okay, well, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you have the funds to do it, that's great. Not trying to stop you from getting your own house. But if your goal is to maybe be a travel blogger, do you really want a house that you have to maintain? You're never going to be home. Maybe
Wait, say that one more time.
your apartment.
Your Wi-Fi got a little weird. If you want to be a
Oh,
travel,
I broke up.
maybe what?
Okay. If you want to be a travel blogger, let's say you want to get out of the small apartment you're in that you're sharing with 3 other people, because you want your own place and you want to buy a house with a small yard, but your dream is to be a travel blogger. Maybe buying a house is not the best option.
Right. No, that's so good. That's a good point.
Because if you want to be a travel blogger, then who's going to take care of your house because you're never at home? So maybe you just keep that apartment. If you're never going to be there, then you can just, you're at home once a month and you're in your bedroom in your apartment you share with 3 other people. Or you could go ahead and buy the house if you plan on renting it out, and that could be a source of income. But you would need to think about it intentionally, not just, I hate this apartment in this part of town. Here's a nice house for sale. I'm going to buy it. It's not good or bad, but the intentionality, I guess, is what you said about as far as mindset and pursuing your dreams is intentionality. If I take this job, it's a lot more money, which is always good, but will the travel requirements interfere with my dream?
Wow.
Will they enhance my dream? Will the extra hours that I'm going to be putting in be worth the extra money so that I can then fund my dream? Or is it going to suck up too much of my time and I therefore cannot work on my dream?
Right.
Again, not bad or good, not right or wrong. Just what do you think is best for your dream long term? So thinking intentionally about every decision you make, I think, is the biggest mindset change to before you do anything and before somebody else tells you what to do or what not to do. You decide what's best for yourself and make every decision intentionally and weigh it. Okay, this is where I want to be, and here's a decision over here. If I make decision A or B, which do I think will benefit me long term to get to here?
Wow, that's so good.
Yeah.
I feel convicted. I'm like, because it makes you think, just hearing this, you have to ask yourself, what is my dream?
Yeah.
Because it's so easy in 2021 to look around at everybody else, especially with all different social media platforms. I see this person kind of doing what I want to do. And so I just want to be like that. But what does that mean for you? Like translate that into what is your dream? Like, I think you have to really translate that, because for me, I look at Taylor Swift sometimes. I'm like, man, I really enjoy her craft, and it makes me want to do my dream because it's kind of similar, but I really have no desire to go from stadium to stadium to stadium singing songs to a bunch of young girls. Like I love young girls. I mean, from a sister perspective, let's get that correct here. As a mentor, I love young girls. I love them as a sister. At the same time, I just don't desire to live such a lonely life, because I have been on tour, and I realize when this gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you seem to get further and further and further away from people. But I do love a nice mid-sized crowd, like 500 people, and like a smaller venue. I could tour like that, and I could like meet with them after the show, and it's just different. It's a totally different vibe. And so, yeah, I think it helps you to realize what is your dream. Grace, if you had to be honest with yourself, like what's your dream, number one, and then what's the next practical step you're taking of, intentionality that we're talking about to get to that dream? Sorry, I'm just being nosy right now, but.
Well, yeah, defining your dream is very important, and that can be a long process, and that can change. Your dream can change, and it's okay if your dream changes, because that's something that I've dealt with too, actually. The one dream that I've always had that's never really changed is I want to write science fiction and fantasy books. So that's always been a part of me ever since I was a kid. But other aspects and other things related to that have kind of changed. I never really thought that I would be, excited about social media. Of course, when I was a kid, it didn't exist. So, because I'm that old. But
I didn't call you old. I just said it didn't exist. I was like, yeah, that's fair.
When I was in college, social media didn't exist. So anyway. So I didn't have a dream related to that at all until recently, because it wasn't there. But defining your dream, and it's okay for your dream to change. So as far as me, the one dream that's never changed is writing and publishing.
Say that one more time, Grace. Pause. Say that one more time. Sorry to pause you, but your internet got a little wonky right there. Just go back a few sentences.
The one dream that's never really changed is I've always wanted to write and publish science fiction and fantasy stories.
Okay.
So let's see, what am I doing to intentionally work on that? Was that what the question was?
Yeah, to reach for it. Yeah. What's your one step, one or two, whatever you're doing? I just want to know, like, what's your intentional step that you're doing to achieve the dream?
Well, one of my intentional steps is doing it, I guess. Now, of course, there's many, many steps to writing and publishing a book, but I published a book last week. I uploaded my document and my JPEG into Kindle Create and Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing, and then I clicked publish. So
that's
part of it. I actually did it, and that's actually a big step. I don't know, other artists where it's like sometimes, not to get off topic, but sometimes it's hard to share your art. Especially if it's something you've been working on a long time. You're like, you want it to be perfect before you put it out in the world. So anyway, so that's part of the intentionality, is just actually doing it. So that is something that I have done, and I'm working on another book. I pretty much always have a story that I'm writing. Not every story that I've ever written is ever going to see the light of day, and that's okay too. And that's something that, I don't know, initially I didn't want to share anything, and then I thought I was required to publish everything, and I'm like, no, both of those are wrong. But as far as working intentionally on my dream, I'm always writing something. Not every single day, but I'm always working on a story or idea in my head. I always have a document or manuscript that is active.
That's so simple when you say that.
Yeah. So even if many weeks goes by and I haven't actually published even a blog post, or I haven't done much in my way of my social media to promote my writing, if I haven't, clicked publish on a book, I haven't sold any books in a while, whatever the case might be, even if it gets slow, in that way, there's always something that I'm working on, at least the back of my head, if not actually making notes, doing some research, jotting down ideas, something. So it's always in the back of my head, and I'm always doing a little bit of something. And I think that that can relate to any other kind of art.
I agree. Yeah. I think a lot of the people
You're,
that get started simply because they think, I'm waiting for this perfect moment, or like for the stars to almost align.
yeah, oh yeah. Wait for the perfect moment is like such a, I don't want to say it's a lie, but it's kind of a lie. It's like, because the perfect moment never comes, and you kind of have to make the perfect moment. And even when you do, it's not perfect. But
and then what is
so,
the perfect moment? Like, who defines it?
Right.
Literally you define the perfect moment to do something. And if you really are the definition or the definer of what a perfect moment is, right? Does it ever come,
Right.
And so, yeah, I love your explanations of what you're intentionally doing.